This is my review of the Pink Floyd album, The Final Cut. It was released in 1983 and produced by Roger Waters, James Guthrie, and Michael Kamen. So this vinyl version of the album I bought, I think like last March or last February, so I haven't had it that long. My first copy of it was this one on CD, which I got, I don't know, I think like Christmas, I don't know, 2006 probably. I know it was the same one I got Animals during, because I had this and Animals at the same time. And so this was like, I don't know, it was like the fourth or fifth Pink Floyd album I got. And I had kind of heard some stuff about it at the time. I had another friend who he was getting really into Pink Floyd at the same time as me, and we were, listening to all the albums and stuff. And he actually got a hold of a copy of this first. I think somebody gave it to him. He didn't have like the case, I remember. He just had the CD. And he was telling me that he's like, yeah, I got that Final Cut Pink Floyd album, and I listened to it, and I don't know what to think of it. Like, there was a song, and he was just talking about a ghost or something, and I was like, huh, okay, that sounds weird. So I got it, and I listened to it, and I got really into it like right away, which kind of surprised me because I kind of heard that it wasn't one of the more popular Pink Floyd albums. I got my shirt on, so I can kind of probably tell I'm a pretty big fan of it. So this album is the first one without Richard Wright on keyboards, and I think you can definitely kind of hear that. It doesn't really sound a lot like a Pink Floyd album. It's been called a Roger Waters solo album by some people, which it does say on the back that it's a requiem for the post-war dream by Roger Waters performed by Pink Floyd, so I guess he is kind of taking all the credit, which he does like write everything. And so I guess this album kind of comes down to how you feel about two things. One is kind of Roger, and two is like the whole concept thing. So I like both, so this album really works for me. I think it's an album that might not work for all people though as well, even if they're fans of Pink Floyd, because it's a lot of Roger and not a lot of the rest of the band. Even though I think Gilmour plays some great guitar on this one, he does get to play. The album starts off with the post-war dream, which I guess kind of like serves as like the thesis to this album almost, or like the concept, or it kind of goes into the whole what happened to the post-war dream thing. And I like it. I mean, I think it works effectively as like an opening track, and I think it's catchy. Like, that's the strange thing about this album that I didn't really expect, was that I think all his vocal melodies are actually like really memorable, and it's really easy to sing along to. For me, at least, after like having heard it as many times as I have. But I don't know. I always just found all the vocal melodies on this album like really catchy for some reason. And there's like some orchestration on this track, which I like. I think it's just a pretty solid way to open the album and kind of explain what's going on, as far as the concept. So the second song, Your Possible Past, one of my favorites on here, might be my favorite. It's the one with the lyric about the ghost that my friend said, but it's not actually talking about a ghost in the lyric, which that's always found funny. And talking about the lyrics, lyrically it's one of my favorite, I think, things that Roger's ever written, which a lot of this album kind of is that way for me. I just really like the lyrics on this album, the concept, and what he's talking about. I think it's something that's still kind of relevant, even though some of the songs are kind of more like talk about stuff during the Falklands War, but it's still is a concept I think really relevant today, especially with like wars going on now. This song, another thing that I like about Possible Past, is something that kind of shows up a little bit on this album, is just the way they use the drums in it. Like, there's not a lot of drums on the song, but there's like certain points where he kind of just like hits the snare, and it kind of just like emphasizes things, and then there's other parts of the song that where the drums kind of do kick in, and I just kind of like, I don't know, the way that they do that throughout the song. And I also think that Dave's guitar solo on the song is really good. Like, pretty much any time he gets a solo on this album, I think it's really good. And I'm not really gonna, like, if I was gonna compliment Roger singing, I'd probably do it on like every track. Like, I know Roger's kind of a limited vocalist, but I feel like on this album he's really, passionate about what he's singing about, and he gives really great vocals that kind of, I don't know, he just gets really like the right emotions when he needs to, and just you can really tell that he really is into what he's saying. So the third song, One of the Few, is a short but another one that I like. It's kind of a really like dark sounding song. It's cool. Then the CD version has When the Tigers Broke Free, which I think was a single, but it's not on the original vinyl version. And I have to say that I think that the album flows better without it. I always liked the song, and I still do like the song, but I almost feel like maybe they should have put it at the beginning, because it's talking about like during the war, and so like I don't know, maybe it could be like before the war, and then it goes into the part about the post-war dream. Like I don't know, it's kind of rambling, but it just doesn't. After listening to the album in its kind of original state, I don't think it flows as well with this track inserted here, but it's still a good song. Fifth song, Hero's Return, another one that I really like, another one that kind of does that like drum thing that I was talking about. Sixth song, Gunner's Dream, another one where I think the lyrics and vocal melody are really good. The eighth song, Paranoid Eyes, kind of slow, but it's just another one where I think the lyrics are really great. And I like the keyboard parts in this. It's weird because like you can definitely tell that Richard Wright's not on this album. Like none of the keyboard playing really sounds like stuff that he would play, I don't feel like. But at the same time, I don't know, it also like makes it not, or well, it's like it makes it sound like it's not really like as much of a Pink Floyd album not having him there. But at the same time, I do like the playing on this album. Like I don't think that they do a bad job with it, which I think it's Michael Kamen playing the piano and harmonium, or the piano harmonium. I don't know if that's all one thing. I guess it is. And Andy Brown playing Hammond organ. So they used kind of, I guess, two keyboard players. But I think that the keyboard work on the album is good. So the ninth song, Get Your Filthy Hands Off My Dessert, starts off with this really cool sounding like explosion recording or whatever. It actually sounds better on the vinyl version, which I kind of think that the album sounds better on vinyl overall than on the CD version. But they both sound really good. I think this is a really great sounding album overall, especially like the sound effects and stuff. But it's kind of a shorter song, and it's one of the more like ones that has more references to the Falklands War and stuff like that. So it's like you might not get it if you don't know stuff about that, or maybe like not so much the war in particular, but it mentions a lot of like political figures around that time, which is kind of, this album's always ranting about Margaret Thatcher, which I just find really funny. But anyway, the 10th song, the Fletcher Memorial Home, another really good one. It's got a really good solo on it, which I think I've heard a quote from David Gilmour where he said this is one of the only reasonable tracks on the album, and that's probably why, because he gets a good solo on it. The 11th song, Southampton Dock, another kind of short one, but another one where I think the lyrics are really good. Then the 12th track, the title track, The Final Cut, kind of tied with Possible Past for my favorite song on this album, but I've always just really liked it. Really love Roger's vocal on it, and Dave's guitar work on it's really great. I think it's one of the more kind of Floyd sounding tracks on here. Kind of sounds a little bit like The Wall, which maybe I've heard some of the songs were taken off of that, or like outtakes of that, or songs that weren't good enough to make it on there or whatever. But I don't know, I think that it's a really great song, and it's really dark, but at the same time like really catchy. Then the final track, or not final track, the 13th track, Not Now John. This is one that I kind of really didn't like for a long time. I think it was like kind of the sound effects and the background singers just kind of annoyed me. But it's a song that I like now. I still don't think it's like the best song on the album, but I like it. this is the only song with the Dave Gilmour vocal on it, and I think like his guitar playing throughout the whole song is really great too. Still not exactly crazy about the like background singers, but now I'm kind of more used to it. And then the 14th and final track, Two Suns in the Sunset. Really dark way to end the album, but just another song on here that took me a while to get into and kind of appreciate. But now I think it's really cool. Andy Newmark plays drums on it, and yeah, just a kind of really dark, downer way to end the album. But it kind of makes the impact of the whole thing, I think, really well. The only song off this that he played when I saw him live, which I was actually just excited that he played anything off the final cut, but I was like, wow, this is really a downer when he was playing it, but I was excited that he played it. But I think that overall, like, the final cut's not a perfect album. It's probably not an album for everybody. To get into it, you're probably going to have to be kind of a fan of Roger, and you're probably going to have to, I don't know if you exactly have to agree with what he's saying, but you're probably going to have to be able to get into the lyrics of it, because it's a very lyrical, conceptual type of album where like it's more about that kind of stuff than it is about the music. But I do think that the music does a really great job of kind of supporting that, like with the drum work and possible pass and stuff. They really use it to kind of emphasize certain points of the songs, and so I think Roger is really effective with that, of like using the music to kind of underline what he's trying to say lyrically. So yeah, I think that maybe it's not like a great Pink Floyd album because it's a lot of Roger and there's no Rick Wright, but overall I think it is a pretty great album, but it's just one that kind of takes a while to get into. I think that if you're looking at Pink Floyd, that you should definitely check it out, but probably not like early on into checking out the band. But it's definitely a really great album for what it is.